Hi, this is Greg, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is on the 6 solutions to the COVID insanity that we're living through right now. So it's basically we have to stop trying to save lives. The media, the doctors, the government, they are all on a mission of mercy to save lives, even if it destroys everything else. Every second sentence is about saving lives, regardless of the economic consequences, and you can't save lives that are going to die anyway. The causes of death may not only be because of COVID, it could be complications of underlying conditions and combinations of things that we have to look at, rather than just lumping everything into COVID. So there are other causes of death, so let's look at those. There's underlying health conditions, stress, financial, burnout. So we'll have to look for some other solutions rather than just locking down and closures of business. So let's look at this. So this is Dr. Dumb. And he basically believes that we must destroy jobs, businesses, and cities to save lives. So currently, there are thousands of small businesses going under. Cities are dying. There's permanent job losses, unemployment. There's increases in poverty. States and cities are insolvent because they're destroying their tax base. And there might be a possible economic depression coming. We don't know. So by destroying the economy, will we save lives? I don't think so. So we'll go through that today. So these are very draconian measures. Now let's look at the United States death statistics for 2019. 2,855,000 people died that year. That's roughly one person in 115 will die. So roughly you could say one person in 115 will die each year in the U.S. Those are just the statistics. So this is an average of 7,800 deaths a day. These are the facts. There's nothing that we can do about it. Nothing you, I, or the government, or even doctors can do about it. People are dying all the time, every day. So here are the U.S. leading causes of death in 2018. From heart disease at 647,000 to cancer at 599, and all the rest of them. People are dying every year from these various deaths. Take any one of these conditions, throw in COVID, and it gets complicated, and they move over to the COVID deaths. But it's not just a COVID death, it's a COVID death with underlying conditions, and not everybody has an underlying condition, but we have to look at the many people do. So these are the causes of death, and COVID is just one of them. So here are the death rates for COVID recently, 389,000 cases over tested of 23 million. So with total deaths of 2,855,000, we take the COVID deaths. There's a difference of 2.4 million, which means, what are these people? Well, these are the people who died of heart attacks, cancers, and whatever that had nothing to do with COVID. They just died for the normal death statistics. If you take the total deaths of 389 over 23,400,000, it's a death rate of 1.6% and a survival rate of 98.4%. This is maybe something that we should be looking at, is why is the survival rate so high? Because that's a very high survival rate for a disease, and the death rate is only 1.6. So granted, these statistics will fluctuate each day, but we may want to look into this as, what are people doing who are surviving? How come? What's the reason? I have an aunt, and she tested positive for COVID. She's 90 years old. She's over it now, and she had no symptoms whatsoever. So we have to look into this a little bit more. Because there's two types of people out there, two types of economies, two different realities. Those who have steady jobs and guaranteed jobs and steady incomes or pensions, who are in favor of many controls to make themselves safe, and they're in favor of lockdowns. But those who have lost their business, losing their business, lost their jobs, and want to get back to work as soon as possible so that they can feed their families. So you can see that there's two types of people here. And these are the two realities. And lockdowns and restrictions are causing isolation and depression that may help the spreading of the virus. So, the lockdowns could actually be a factor causing the spread simply because people are stressed out. This is something to look at. So those who are making all the decisions are the ones with the guaranteed jobs, secure income sources, financial security, have wealth and good pensions, and they'll be all right. And those who don't support the lockdowns because, for various reasons, they are considered selfish, endangering lives, do not care about others, think only about themselves, are not good people, blah, 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 they're uncaring. Basically, these people have reasons why they disagree with a lot of the lockdowns. Maybe they should be listened to. These are the people who are unemployed, who are having a tremendous cost associated to this. They're losing their businesses, and that may very well be by the reason why they are against these lockdowns. So they should be listened to, because they will be shamed, attacked, and silenced. So this is the way we handle and control everybody right now. Dissent will not be tolerated. We have police enforcement to comply, heavy fines and punishments, censorship, authoritarian decrees, closures, no discussion. I mean, this is almost like Stalinism in the 1930s, which is closing you down and wiping you out. So, and any new ideas or solutions will be vigorously opposed. The media will be used, like always, as a propaganda machine to support the government and their government decrees and whatever. I'm not saying they're all bad, but let's have a different viewpoint here. So basically, we must enforce the will and the decrees of the government. So this is the idea, and no dissent will be tolerated. Small businesses being blamed for the spread of the virus. I've been shopping at Walmart, Costco, and food stores, and I find them packed, especially Costco. It's packed with people. So is Walmart on any given day. They're doing the best to keep us safe, but they are packed. Why? Well, people are going there for the food, and we have to eat. Yet a small business or a small store that just has a few people in their store, they're spreading the virus and they're dangerous. But Walmart and Costco, who are packed, that's not a problem. They're not spreading the virus, but the small little businessman, well, his little store is just very dangerous. So there's something wrong in the government policies here. But again, we can't discuss that because the government won't allow it, and it's basically a lockdown, and that's it. So it's not a question of who is right or who is wrong here. Is it working? Yeah, we got the hysteria that has gripped the planet. So daily infection rates, hospitals overwhelmed, infections and death rates skyrocketing. Pandemic seems to be out of control. Nations under full lockdown. News media is spreading fear and panic. There's burnout, depression, anger, economic distress, etc., etc. Well, the planet is freaking out and it is not working. It's getting worse. So it's not a question of who is right or who is wrong. Is it working? And no, it is not. I think that's the answer. So here's the definition of insanity: is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And that seems to be what we're in right now. And the problem is the government authorities are talking to themselves. They don't want to listen to anybody. They don't want any input. They're just going to give us decrees and play God. So 50% of the people are not listening to them, are not listening to the news media, and all we can do is shame them. There's a problem here of communication between the government and getting their message out, and maybe the government listening to other people. When people are complaining about the lockdowns are too stringent, maybe the government has to look into this. If you don't got the participation of the people, it's not going to work. And even the 100 million people or so who are against lockdowns and whatever, instead of shaming them, it's 1/3 the population. Maybe we should start listening to what they're saying. So the government has lost control of the pandemic, and all the decisions are made by a few behind closed doors, no discussion or exchange of ideas. It's just no input from the outside sources or input from those who are affected. Stores and those who are closed down have nothing to say about this. The government has decided that it's a decree, it's authoritarian, and that's it, because they're on a kick to save lives, and that justifies everything. Even the destruction of the economy in cities to save lives, in the mind's eye of the government, that's okay. So it's really the only solution is decrees to impose and enforce restrictions and lockdowns. So they're going to enforce everything because they don't know what else to do. And their arrogance is what's causing the problems, the pushback, the people who are not following orders. A lot of it is just people pushing back who are fed up, who are tired, and the government doesn't get it. There's only so much it can do. There's no more lockdowns possible. Everything is locked down. Eventually, we're going to be, chained to our beds? So small businesses being scapegoated for the spread of the virus. And it's the indifference to the collateral damage of the lockdowns and restrictions, which is very frustrating for a lot of people. 50 million people in the U.S. are suffering from food insecurity. The authorities don't care. Thousands of small businesses are going out or under. Doesn't matter. So the government deficits are through the roof. What happened to those days of austerity and whatever? Doesn't matter. Cities and states are insolvent. It doesn't seem to matter. There's some serious problems here, and it's just not working. So families are facing financial and personal ruin. It doesn't seem to matter. We have riots, family violence, mental depression. It doesn't seem that it affects the government and their decisions. They will continue doing with what they're doing. They have a scorched earth policy. They will do whatever it takes to save lives, to get the pandemic under control, and even if they have to destroy livelihood, cities and jobs and businesses, they'll do it. So my question is it worth it? Did they ask anybody else and say, like, is this what you want? Is it working? So, and I would like to know, how many lives did they actually save? So these are questions that have to be asked, because the virus is in control, and the virus is winning because it does what it's doing. A virus does what it does. It spreads. It's programmed for that. That's its whole purpose in life. So don't be surprised that it's spreading, because that's what it does. So the virus has won, and the government's lost control and are reacting every time there's a problem. Well, we'll increase the lockdowns and restrictions. Decisions are based on panic and fear, and not on any kind of logical thought here. Sure, you can say, well, we have to do the lockdowns. We have to restrict everybody. Is it working? Are there other alternatives here? Maybe we should open it up for discussion. So the vaccines will be coming soon, so hopefully that'll work. Now, it's not a question of who is right or who is wrong. It's, is it working? So in conclusion, we have to stop trying to save lives, stop playing God, and realize that that's not the mandate of the government. To decide who is going to be open, who is not going to be open, who's important, who's not, and what's essential and what is not. That's a very, difficult decision. So, if you ask certain people, they'll say, yeah, I'm important. But now the government said, no, you're not. You're non-essential. Your life doesn't matter. Your job doesn't matter. And your livelihood doesn't matter. So we got to stop playing this God thing, because it's pissing off a lot of people and creating a lot of havoc. Accept the fact that people will die. The death rates, you've got to accept them. It's a disease. It's a pandemic. That's what it does. There's going to be death rates. People are dying every day, even if there wasn't any COVID. That has never been talked about, the fact that people are going to die every day, and it must be accepted. So you've got to accept the pandemic is out of control, and really the governments have no clue of what they're doing. I personally don't think they do, because it's out of control, and if this is what was expected. They're surprised that the virus is spreading, and surprise, people are dying from it. And this is what the viruses do. So we have to accept that. So we have to accept, if the government is going to find a solution to this, before the vaccines come, because remember, the vaccines are starting, that's going to help. But a lot of the experts say we could be in this for many months to come, and it could be by the fall of this year that it could be over, and it could even be more. So we're going to have to accept some different points of view here. The government cannot be so rigid and dogmatic in their approach, because the government arrogance of the authorities is probably part of the problem here. And the reason we're in a mess is because of their arrogance. So it invites, all their arrogance invites pushback and problems, which we have already mentioned. And please, they've got to stop the scorched earth policy. We'll destroy everything to save lives. That is not working. They really must stop the scorched earth policy and come out with something better. So that having been said, hopefully you enjoyed the video and you've learned something. Hopefully this will give you some ideas. The next video, I'm going to be looking at some more solutions to get through this. So hopefully you liked it. So please hit the like button and subscribe and share, and I'll see you next time.